This is a little thing I like to call MLB Rants. Like every other episode, just a quick reminder before the video starts that these are only my opinions. You don't necessarily have to agree with them. They are not universally correct. If you agree with them, put it down in the comment. Or if you disagree with it, why do you disagree with it? What's wrong with what I have to say? And I'll look at it and I might go over everything that I say. I might even go over it next episode. And again, if there's something that happens this week that you want me to go over personally, I will look into it and it might even appear on next week's episode. With all the introduction stuff out the way so that everyone knows that I'm not trying to be, I'm right at all times. No. Wow. Now that that stuff's out the way, last week my Chromebook was the big news item. Now it's my chair. Yeah, I just put a new chair. It swivels and it's not, because the chair I used was a foldable chair and now I actually have a comfortable chair that I can sit in while I do this. 2021 MLB season, episode 4. Let's get right into things. So the Chicago White Sox have been pretty good this year. They've remained in the top 10 for both power rankings and for overall record throughout the season. And their manager is clueless. They were playing the Reds the other night. They got into an extra inning game. Tony La Russa, the manager for the White Sox, didn't know there was the extra inning rule where you have a guy that starts on second base running. He's got multiple coaches and players that can tell him that easily. But yet, it doesn't happen, and I just feel like this is the end of the little White Sox campaign that they had going on, because this year they're kind of like high hopes for the White Sox that they were going to win the division, they're going to go to the playoffs, even make it to maybe the ALCS. But now I feel like that's kind of all over just because of this. I know it has nothing to do with the players and the talent of the White Sox, but this alone just really goes to show where the White Sox are at right now. They've been losing and winning at the same time. Overall, it's not really that great. 10th inning, they had the wrong player at second base, they had the slower player at second base, and then Grandal walked. There were a few strikeouts, and then I think Billy Hamilton struck out 2 or grounded out, and then the inning was over, and then the Reds walked it off. I think the White Sox campaign is over for their, post-season spot that they've been desperate to get for the past few years. The next thing I want to talk about is the Astros-Yankees game. This is one of the most important things of the week. And more importantly, I want to talk about the heckling that Altuve received from Yankee Stadium, especially on his birthday. Yankees fans are savages. They do not care. And thank God for Yankees fans, because their team, after starting so terribly and after me talking so bad about them, they have pulled it together. The thing about the Astros heckling, or the heckling with Altuve, is the response that Dusty Baker gave. He has no right to be talking right now. He was talking about how, he was glad that nothing violent happened, and, it felt like a packed house even though it wasn't. It's like, why do you need to say anything? Like, reporters are gonna ask you questions, yeah. But you should just be saying, if the reporter asks you like, oh, what are your thoughts on the heckling for Altuve over this series? You shouldn't be saying, oh, well, I'm just glad that they didn't get fined. No, you should be saying, yeah, it's kind of expected when we cheat in order to win the World Series. Yeah, that makes sense. No, he says, oh, just thank God he wasn't violent. They're not really that good. They have the same team, and we now realize that without the cheating, mainly Jose Altuve, can't hit the ball to save his life. I don't feel like Dusty Baker had any right to say anything except for, yeah, it's kind of expected that he gets this lash, especially because the last time the Yankees and the Astros played in front of a live audience, that was the same game where Altuve hit the walk-off home run and was literally covering himself because he was wearing a wire and didn't want anyone, and he made up that random excuse about, his wife didn't want him to take off his shirt. Like, come on now. And then Dusty Baker's out here. I'm just glad he didn't get violent. Speaking of the Astros cheating, right? I want to point out suspensions. because there have been a few suspensions given out this week because there have been a little bit of stuff going on. When the Astros cheated to win the World Series, they didn't get any suspension. They didn't get their World Series stripped away from them. I can even show you what happened. You ready? Watch. You ready? You gotta look very closely though, okay? I can show you. I can demonstrate what happened to the Astros. You ready? That's it. That is all that happened to the Astros for cheating in order to win the World Series. I just want to go over why they were suspended, right? Okay, so Amir Garrett got suspended 7 games for yelling. Jose Alvarado got suspended 3 games for yelling in Spanish. Nick Castellanos got suspended 2 games for yelling and flexing. What? Players are gonna yell, yes. They should get a fine, if anything. But the fact that they are getting suspended for more than 1 game is ridiculous. Just another bad call made by MLB as a whole, suspending these players for essentially yelling, for essentially, defending themselves. And Garrett is a really he talks to himself on the mound. He will let hitters know when he has won. And he kind of earns that right. When you strike Anthony Rizzo out, who was literally yelling in your face the year before, you have every right. And if you get yelled at, take the fine, but not a 7-game suspension. Come on. And then Jose Alvarado, he was yelling at Dominic Smith, who couldn't understand him. He didn't even know what he was saying. And then Dominic Smith then went on to say, oh, let's meet in the tunnel, as if they were going to fight. We don't know if it actually happened. It didn't seem like anything happened. But Jose Alvarado got suspended 3 games for yelling. If you're comparing Amir Garrett's suspension and Nick Castellanos' suspension, you would really think that Amir Garrett would get it less than him, but yet he doesn't. For whatever reason, it's like they hate Amir Garrett and the way he plays. Honestly, I love the way he plays because it's aggressive. It's, he's letting them know that he won. He won that battle, and there will always be another battle. That's the great thing about baseball. And if batters can't accept that, if batters are butthurt about that, then that's on them, not him. The next thing is Albert Pujols is leaving the Angels. As of today, he has left the Angels. I don't know what team he's on, but he has left the Angels. And personally, I think it's kind of his time to retire because the dude is 41 years old. He had a great career with the Cardinals. He didn't. The weird thing about Pujols is that with the Cardinals, the lowest OPS he had was 906, and with the Angels, he couldn't even reach 906. In February, he was talking about how he wasn't really focusing on that. He was more focused on winning games for the Angels, and now just seeing him let go. He's a great player. He's definitely going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for everything that he's done. 5th on the all-time MLB leaderboard for home runs. And I feel like he's not going to go to another team. If he does go to another team, then good for him. But I feel like Albert Pujols will retire. And if by the time you're seeing this, he has retired, then, yeah. He'll be missed. He was a great baseball player, and we'll see what he happens next. But yeah, his contract was supposed to expire this year. It was $254 million, and they've just decided to let him go. Maybe to, free up some space, get some extra money. Understandable things. Baseball is a business after all. It's also about economics, stuff like that. So yeah. The next thing I want to get into is a wholesome moment in the MLB. I thought it was really great. I love seeing this kind of stuff. It's one of the best things about baseball. Chris Turner, former catcher for the Yankees, he sent out a tweet saying that if Huascar Ynoa, the starting pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, if he hit a home run, he would donate $100 to any Atlanta animal shelter. And so the 6th inning comes up, Ynoa gets an at-bat, has an 0-1 count, bases loaded, and just drills one out of the park. It is the greatest thing to see. And when he comes back to home plate, he is the happiest kid in the world. He donated it to the Fur Kids Incorporation, and with that $100, they were able to rescue 30 kittens from the Tift County Animal Shelter. And with respects to the pitcher and the catcher, they named one of the kittens Ynoa, and they named the other kitten Turner, which I thought was great. I just love baseball when it's so wholesome like that. And yeah, so good for Chris Turner for donating all that money. Good for Ynoa for hitting a grand slam. Overall good vibes in baseball. Overall good vibes. First thing I want to talk about is the 3 batter minimum rule that the MLB put in place last year or maybe the year before that, where when a pitcher comes in to relief, they have to face a minimum of 3 batters. Reason why I'm bringing this up is because in the Phillies-Cardinals game, relief pitcher for the Cardinals, Genesis Cabrera, got subbed in onto the mound, and the first 3 batters he faced were Bryce Harper, Didi Gregorius, and Andrew McCutchen. So first pitch, he drilled Bryce Harper in the face. Second pitch, he drilled Didi Gregorius in the ribs. And then a few pitches later, he gave up a hit to Andrew McCutchen, and a run scored from that. He threw 6 pitches, and those 6 pitches resulted in a run scoring based off of 2 hit by pitches and a single. Sports Illustrated wrote an article this week about how they believe it's dangerous. And to a certain extent, I can agree with that, but at the same time, it's still kind of ridiculous. Like, they get hit all the time. But I do agree that the 3 batter minimum rule is pretty dumb. If a guy throws 2 pitches and those 2 pitches result in 2 batters getting on base, then the manager would take him out immediately. Walks are walks, and the hit by pitches are worse than anything. So at that point, you would just take him out. I don't really get that. Because at the end of the day, the only team that it's affecting is the team that's pitching. And if they're taking their pitcher out, then they're having to then use another pitcher that they shouldn't have to use, because the pitcher that they put in should be, they should have the ability to perform and get through the inning or do whatever needs to be done. But instead, they don't. Maybe it's because there are some times where managers will just put a pitcher in for one particular batter because maybe that pitcher is good. Like, that pitcher is good against that batter. But at this point, you don't really see that anymore. Like, you don't see managers trying to do that, because a lot of batters are great against a lot of pitchers, but there's no need to really sub them out. And if that's the reason why this rule is put in place, then I don't think it's really worth keeping it in. Speaking of kind of changing rules and stuff like that, minor league baseball started this week. And the interesting to look out for in the minor games is the amount of rules that they've added into different leagues. Because what they've done this year is they have 4 different sections. Because you have AAA, you've got AA, and then you've got low A and high A. So these new rules that are being enforced into the minor leagues are actually they're being done by Theo Epstein, who used to be the front office executive for the Cubs and the Red Sox, I'm pretty sure. And so he's introduced these rules to the different leagues. So for AAA, what they've done is usually the bases are 15 by 15 inches, the bases. And what they've done is they've made them bigger so that they're now 18 by 18 inches, which, 3 inches, I know people are like, oh, that's not even that big of a difference. But when you think about the amount of things that happen on the bases, it really is quite a big deal. Because 3 inches could prevent injuries. It allows for a lot more steals, which don't happen that often, especially in the minor leagues. I feel like that rule especially is pretty interesting. Even if it's just 3 rules, I still think it's really interesting, and I feel like it'll serve its uses. AA, what they're going to do, so for the first half of the season, what they're doing is they're enforcing infielders to start on the infield dirt. So usually what a lot of baseball teams have been doing recently, especially this year, is playing the shift, where you don't have your typical fielders playing where they need to play. You'll see the shortstop playing in right field, basically, or just stuff like that. What AA has done is they've restricted that so that the infielders have to stay, their cleats have to be on the dirt. It doesn't matter where they are on the dirt. You could have a shortstop and a third baseman basically both playing third base, but they both have to be on the infield dirt. Now, in the second half of the season, what they're enforcing is that now you have to have 2 players on each side of second base. So you'll have a shortstop and a third base on one side, and then the second base and your first baseman on the other side, which is typical baseball. And they still have to keep their feet on the dirt. I think it's a really interesting rule. You'll have guys who are hitting it straight back to the pitcher, and it gets past the pitcher, and usually you'd think, oh yeah, that's a base hit, but the camera angle turns to the home plate angle, and you see the shortstop playing right behind second base. And the fact that they're splitting it up into halves is also pretty interesting. So yeah, for AA, I like to see how well that goes. For low A, as a collective whole, what they've done is they've implemented a rule where the pitcher can only have 2 step-offs per batter. So basically, they step off the rubber, throw back to first, or to second, or to third. If they decide to throw after 2, if they do more than 2, and on the third one, they don't get the base runner out, then it's classified as a balk and the runner gets a free base. That is a great rule right there. Because you will constantly hear fans booing pitchers whenever they step off. It's like, yeah, now you don't have to boo anymore because the dude's only got 2 pickoffs before the guy balks. There's low A West and low A Southeast. This next one is the greatest rule of all time because God, have I been going over this over and over and over again. What they have done in low A Southeast, and I am praising low A Southeast at the moment. What they have done is they're putting an umpire behind home plate with an earpiece in his ear with a robot telling him whether or not it's a ball or a strike. Thank God. It is about time we figured this out. And we're going to realize that this 100% works, and the MLB is like, let's do this so that the umpires can stop making terrible calls at home plate. Thank God. They finally figured it out. They have figured it out after all this time. So they have an earpiece in his ear with a machine telling him whether or not it's a ball or a strike, and he's just there to be the middleman and announce it to the crowd. And then he'll still call the, plays at the plate. I'm breaking my mind. Low A West isn't anything new. They have a 15-second pitch clock. And the Atlantic League is what they've done is they've brought back, so I didn't mention the Atlantic League before because it's kind of like its own little thing, but it still classifies as like, a farm system to the MLB. But what they've done is they've brought the mound back because usually the mound is 60 feet, 6 inches, and they've brought it back to 61 feet, 5 inches. So the last time the MLB actually moved the mound, where the mound was back in 1893. So I mean, it's not really like anything big. And back then it was 5 feet more from what it is now. But batting averages did go up, and they did see improvement in people's hitting because the ball is traveling from a lot farther away, and the ball's coming in a lot the ball's coming in a lot slower. So I can understand why you want to do this, because especially this year, you look at a lot of players and their batting averages aren't really that good. And I feel like that's what they're really focusing on is, well, how can we get hitters to hit the ball more? How can we get base runners to run the bases more? And that's what they've done in the minor league systems and all the farm systems. And I think it's great. I'm excited for the minor league baseball. I always love going to minor league games. It's always chill. They're open, especially during Corona. Find your nearest farm, whether it's AA, AAA, low A, or high A, whatever. You just find which team is nearest to you, and I guarantee you'll have a blast. The people there are always great. They're always going to be like local people that live around the area. So definitely go to a minor league game. They're great. So there was a statement released about the player of the month for April, and they said it was Ronald Acuna Jr. And I'm not going to sit here and rant about why or why not Ronald Acuna shouldn't or should be the player of the month. Instead, what I want to talk about is who I think the team of the month was. First, I want to discuss I want to discuss honorable mentions. Of course, one of the honorable mentions has to be the Dodgers. The Dodgers, they've been on top of power rankings. They've been on top of the league in record, winning percentage, and all that kind of stuff. But you look at their schedule, and it really is weak. And their games this week against the Brewers, against the Cubs, it has not been great for the Dodgers. They were losing to the Rockies, they were losing to the Nationals, and they shouldn't be losing to those teams. The Dodgers seem like the obvious choice, but their schedule is really weak, and the only reason why they have all those wins is because they haven't played a really good team, except for the Padres. Now, going on to the Padres aren't the best team of the month either, because their series, the multiple series that they've had against the Pirates have been it's like a curse. They just can't beat the Pirates. And the Pirates are basically last in the league. They have done really well against the Dodgers. They're basically the Dodgers' only competition. They've been struggling with, teams like the Pirates, like I said, and the Brewers. The Brewers is the next time I want to say, because the Brewers have actually creeped up in power rankings. And on Bleacher Report, the Brewers are now 2 in power rankings behind the Dodgers and above the Padres. I could make the argument about how, since the Brewers, without Christian Yelich for the longest time, and, Corbin Burns recently getting injured, but he's still been doing a good job, and Josh Hader pitching well in their division games against the Cubs and the Pirates. They've only lost one of five series. But I feel like there's still a lot more that the Brewers, and especially with Christian Yelich not being there, it really takes on a toll of how they're not yet there without Christian Yelich. And if Christian Yelich does come back, I feel like he will be a big part of the Brewers. The Athletics are on top of they're not on top, but they're pretty close in both power rankings and in overall rankings. The good thing about the Athletics is they had their 13-game winning streak, which really helped them out. But they were playing teams like the Tigers, who are bottom of the league. They were playing the Diamondbacks, who were bottom of the league. Twins, who were good in the beginning, and now they're creeping to the bottom of the league. They had their 13-game run, but I think they'll start creeping back into the lower rankings because there's no strength in that lineup. It was honestly just a bit of luck and partially also to do with the fact that they weren't playing great teams. Another team who's actually on top of the record rankings, who has the best record, are the Red Sox, but they played the Orioles 3 times. The Red Sox are a really good team. They're really surprising this year, but again, the same problem with the Athletics. There's not really any strength there. And I feel like once they start playing a lot of teams in the AL East, like the Yankees and the Blue Jays a lot more, I feel like they'll start losing games and they'll start dropping too. Another team is the Cardinals. The funny thing is that the first episode was all about the Cardinals and Nolan Arenado and how they're playing bad. Now they're like one of the best teams in baseball. It's like I'm helping these teams out at this point. And they've done really well, but they started off the season really poorly. They've played the Reds over and over again, and for whatever reason, those series are always close. They've played the Cubs. Their only competition is really the Brewers. They have been good, yes, and they will continue to get good. Might even win the NL Central, but they're not the best team in my mind. The best team, in my mind, who were not expected to do anything this year, who were expected to lose every other game and to just do nothing, the best team of April for me are the San Francisco Giants. The San Francisco Giants are currently on top of the NL West. They rank about 5 in power rankings, and in overall record, they are second behind the Red Sox as of right now. They've played teams across the NL and the AL. They beat the Padres and they beat the Mariners, who both had their turns in taking the top spot, where the Mariners were top of the AL West and the Padres have been trying to get on top of the NL West, but who are now on top of the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are third, which is surprising everyone because they've essentially got the same World Series team as last year, minus Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson. The Dodgers aren't looking great, but the Giants have really made an improvement, especially with the team that they have and what they were expected to do. And it's not like they've been playing really bad teams like the other teams I've mentioned. They've been playing pretty good teams and they've been beating them. And they've made it close against teams, especially the Padres. The Padres had a hard time against them and they've beat them. So yeah, my team of the month are the San Francisco Giants. That's it. There are a lot of teams up for contention and it is really close. But, where the San Francisco Giants started and where they are now throughout the month, they were the team of the month for me. So that is it for this week's episode. Again, like, subscribe. If you want to see my content, I post on a weekly basis every Friday. But in case you forget, just hit that subscribe button and push notifications with that bell, and it'll let you know, and you'll have that constant reminder every week that I'm posting. Put down in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, anything that happens next week. I'll be sure to look at it, maybe put it in next week's video. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I will see you next week. Have a great Mother's Day. Make sure to celebrate your mom. If you've got a baseball mom like I do, Take her to a baseball game. Again, I'll remind you, take her to a minor league baseball games. They're great. They're so much fun, and they're cheap. They're really cheap. You can buy tickets for $20. Guarantee you that the team that's nearest to you, they're still going to have seats available for their game this Sunday. So yeah, happy Mother's Day. Go give love to your mom this weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.